Sometimes the hardest part of being a parent isn't knowing what to do. It's wondering if you're failing the one person who believes in you the most. Ben Travers asked himself that question every night as he watched his 10-year-old son, Max, finish homework by the dim glow of a battery lantern, because the power company had cut their electricity again. Months of unpaid bills, warehouse shifts that barely covered rent, and the quiet ache of losing his wife to cancer had left Ben feeling trapped between exhaustion and fear. Then came the letter from a lawyer. His estranged grandfather Samuel had died, leaving Ben the deed to a property no one in the family had spoken about in decades, an abandoned railroad station called Millbrook. To Ben, it sounded like another burden, a crumbling relic destined for demolition. But Max's eyes lit up at the mention of trains and secret rooms. The boy's curiosity was infectious, and despite his practical misgivings, Ben agreed to drive out after work to at least see the place. Neither of them imagined that the dusty station would become the key to a secret worth more than $200 million, and a test of courage that would pull them into a 70-year conspiracy where time itself held the ultimate power. The station sat on a slight rise outside town, its red brick facade weathered but proud, the faded sign above the entrance still declaring Millbrook Station 1923 in letters that once gleamed gold. A rusting passenger car rested on a siding like a ghost of the past. Inside, dust motes floated in sunlight streaming through arched windows, revealing a grand waiting hall frozen in time. Max darted from corner to corner, running his hands over the smooth wooden benches and tarnished brass fittings, while Ben's contractor's eye tallied every costly repair. Behind the old ticket booth, Max spotted a pattern in the tile floor, a rectangle where the design shifted from simple hexagons to a precise web of circles and lines. Samuel's labeled key ring opened every door with suspicious ease, and in his grandfather's old office Ben found a heavy brass device that looked like an ornate ticket punch engraved with dates: 1923, 1947, 1952. When Max aligned the punch with the etched numbers on the tiles and pressed down, a hidden mechanism clicked, and a section of floor lifted to reveal a perfectly concealed trap door. Cool air drifted up from darkness below. Samuel Travers, the quiet railroad man Ben had barely known, had hidden something far more valuable than a dilapidated building. With only a phone flashlight to guide them, father and son descended a stone staircase into a tunnel lined with narrow-gauge tracks and brass fittings that gleamed as if maintained yesterday. The passage opened into a vast underground chamber that took Ben's breath away. Workbenches held precision instruments of German, Swiss, and American origin, clockwork mechanisms, electronic components, and devices decades ahead of their time. At the center sat a leather-bound journal embossed with the name Heinrich Zimmermann, master chronometer. The entries began in 1947 and described Project Kronos, a top-secret U.S. government effort to create the most precise timing device ever built, technology that could revolutionize navigation, communications, and scientific research, but also enable weapons guided with unprecedented accuracy. Zimmermann wrote of working alongside Samuel Travers to hide the prototypes when the project was abruptly canceled in 1952. He feared factions inside the government would weaponize the technology, so he and Samuel preserved it in this subterranean vault, waiting for someone patient and morally sound enough to unlock it. As Ben read, The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders. Max, wide-eyed with wonder, whispered the question already pounding in Ben's mind. What are we supposed to do with something this powerful? The next day, unable to shake the discovery, Ben returned with Max, better lights, and a camera. Together they explored deeper and uncovered a sequence of ingenious security puzzles. Rotating the brass punch through a combination of the engraved dates triggered hidden gears, unlocking a second chamber, and activating an electrical system that had slept for 70 years. Lights flickered on, revealing a massive vault packed with crates stamped with U.S. government seals and German markings. At the center rested a polished wooden chest labeled Kronos Prime Prototype, final version, not for military application. Inside lay a chronometer the size of a pocket watch, its dozens of microscopic dials moving with impossible precision despite decades of silence. But before Ben and Max could savor the find, voices echoed from above, strangers who clearly knew the station's secrets. Lights snapped off, leaving only the red glow of emergency lamps. Ben realized they weren't alone and that someone had been watching, waiting for the Travers family to solve Samuel's puzzles. With pursuers closing in, father and son grabbed the chronometer and a satchel of blueprints and slipped into a side tunnel, racing through the maze of hidden tracks toward an uncertain escape. The underground maze twisted beneath the forgotten neighborhoods like a second city, its narrow tracks splitting into shadowy passages. Ben's pulse pounded as he led Max through side corridors marked with Samuel's careful symbols. Behind them, beams of flashlights swept across the walls as the intruders descended, their voices echoing with cold precision. Max studied the rails even in panic, noticing the middle track bore the freshest wear, and they followed it until it opened into another chamber filled with journals, maps, and technical drawings. There they learned the full scope of Zimmerman's genius. The chronometer's rare earth components could measure time to the picosecond, thousands of times more accurate than modern GPS. Such precision could guide submarines beneath oceans, synchronize communications across planets, or, in the wrong hands, control weapons with terrifying accuracy. Max's young mind leapt ahead to peaceful uses, safe navigation, scientific breakthroughs. But Ben saw the darker side, wars won before enemies even knew they'd begun. Clutching the prototype, they located a hidden exit mapped decades earlier and emerged blocks away beneath an old hardware store, slipping into the night while unmarked cars swarmed the station they'd just fled. The hunt for Project Kronos had begun, and the Travers family was now its unwilling guardian. Back in their cramped apartment, Ben and Max spread the journals and blueprints across the kitchen table, the chronometer ticking softly like a heart that refused to be silenced. Attempts to research Heinrich Zimmermann or Project Kronos online yielded almost nothing, evidence scrubbed by powerful hands. Then came the first call. A calm, cultured voice introduced herself as Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, claiming to represent parties with a legitimate claim to Samuel's estate. She offered Ben $2 million for the return of certain materials, her tone smooth but edged with threat. Ben lied, denying any knowledge, but the caller knew details only someone who had monitored their every move could possess. Hours later, a plain package arrived containing an antique pocket watch and a note from Margaret Chen, a name that stunned them. Mrs. Chen, their kindly neighbor who had watched Max since Sarah's death, had apparently been waiting decades for this moment. The inscription on the watch, for Samuel Travers, guardian of time and keeper of secrets, made it clear she was far more than a friendly grandmother down the hall. Before Ben could process the shock, a quiet knock announced her arrival, her face calm but eyes sharp with purpose. Inside the locked apartment, Mrs. Chen revealed the truth with the authority of someone who had carried a burden too heavy for one lifetime. Her grandfather had been Dr. James Chen, Zimmerman's assistant before Samuel took over. When the government ordered Project Kronos destroyed, James Chen helped hide the technology and swore his descendants to protect it until the right Travers heir appeared. Samuel had been a careful custodian, but Zimmerman believed that one day a member of the family would inherit both the intellect and the moral courage to decide its fate. Mrs. Chen explained that three rival factions, rogue elements within the U.S. government, private military contractors, and an unnamed foreign intelligence network, had been searching for the chronometer since the 1950s. The pocket watch she delivered was more than a memento. Hidden inside was a set of coordinates leading to a second, even more secure facility containing research that would make the first discovery look primitive. Zimmerman built layers of protection, she said quietly. The chronometer you carry is just the beginning. The question is whether you have the strength to protect what comes next. As night deepened, Ben felt the full weight of the choice Samuel and Zimmerman had left for him and his son. The $2 million offered over the phone could erase every debt and give Max a future free from struggle, but selling the technology would unleash power capable of reshaping nations. Max, wise beyond his years, placed the chronometer between them and spoke with a calm conviction that reminded Ben of his late wife. "Great-grandpa didn't hide this so someone could get rich," he said. "He hid it so it wouldn't hurt people until someone was ready to use it for good. Maybe that's supposed to be us." Ben realized their journey wasn't ending. It was only beginning. Somewhere beneath the old city cemetery, the coordinates promised another vault, another test, and perhaps the key to guiding humanity toward a safer future. For now, they would guard the secret, study the journals, and prepare for whatever came next. And if you've been captivated by Ben and Max's incredible discovery, tap that subscribe button, share this story with a friend, and join us tomorrow when we uncover even more hidden truths buried beneath the ordinary world. Because some treasures are too important to stay lost forever.